Hi, everyone. Thank you for attending my presentation. My name is Laban. I'm a PhD candidate from the Institute of Neuroscience and Psychology of the University of Glasgow. I'm here to present my current project, Affect and Prolonged Interactions with Social Robots, which I'm currently working on with Professor Arvid Kappas, Professor Morrison, and Professor Emily Cross. So before talking about the different aspects of our project, I guess that since this conference is very multidisciplinary, some of you are not as familiar with social robots. Social robots take on different shapes and forms, like C3PO and his friend R2-D2 from Star Wars. Social robots are autonomous machines that interact and communicate with humans or with other agents by following social behaviors and rules that attach to their role. Their cognitive architectures and embodied cognition can elicit socially meaningful behaviors and emotions from humans. Social robots can afford valuable opportunities for social engagement with human users, and there is a growing evidence base that documents how social robots might function as autonomous tools to support psychosocial health interventions for mental health, but also for physical health. Since interactions with social robots are novel and exciting for most people, one particular concern in this specific area of human-robot interactions is the extent to which behavioral and emotional expressions might extend from initial interactions with a robot when its novelty is particularly salient and be sustained over time. Here, we aim to test the extent to which social robots can elicit emotional expression and disclosures from people, as well as affecting their perceptions in a long and intensive period. As the current COVID-19 pandemic forced us into using computer-mediated means of communication to interact with one another, these became standard means of communication in most households. Accordingly, we decided to use these methods to place a social robot in participants' homes to study long-term human-robot interactions in natural settings. So by placing the robot in participants' homes, we mean via Zoom video chats. Here you can see our lab settings. The robot is Pepper from SoftBank Robotics, and I'm in the back controlling Pepper via Wizard of Oz. Here we can see how the participants saw the robot from their perspective. And through the use of a mediated online experiment, this research was designed to examine the type and extent of expressions people use to communicate with the social robot, how they perceive it, as well as how people disclose information and emotion to a social robot via online video chat across time. 40 participants were recruited via Prolific and were randomly assigned to one of the two conditions. Only one participant dropped out during our data collection. Across a period of 5 weeks, participants engaged in interactions with the social robot Pepper via Zoom video chats twice a week. Participants were asked by Pepper about their general everyday experiences in the control condition, whereas in the experimental condition, these topics were framed around the context of the COVID-19 pandemic. Now I'm going to do a short demonstration with Pepper so you'll get a better understanding of how the manipulation looks like. So first, Pepper is going to ask a question that corresponds to the control condition, and right after is going to ask the same exact question as it would have been framed in the experimental condition.
How do you manage to balance your commitments while investing in yourself? Do you feel that you got it under control? Since the pandemic started, how did you manage to balance your commitments while investing in yourself? Do you feel that you got it under control?
So, as we could see in the example, in the control condition, Pepper would ask the question in general terms, whereas in the experimental condition, he would frame it under the context of the COVID-19 pandemic. Pepper asked the participants 3 questions. First, a general small talk question, for example, about the participant's week or weekend, and then 2 questions that corresponded to one of 10 randomly ordered topics that are addressing different aspects of quality of life based on previous research. So for example, about how participants perceive themselves or think that others perceive them, or how do they feel belong to in their relationships and social life. In the experiment, we collected data that will provide evidence for people's expressions, perceptions, and disclosures to social robots in recurrent interactions across time, and will reduce the current knowledge gap regarding novelty effects in human-robot interaction research. In terms of perceptions, we're going to look at mind perception, interaction quality, and we also collected qualitative data to have deeper insights into relationship formation and attachment with a social robot. In terms of disclosures, we also have subjective data of how people perceive their own disclosures and their own quality of disclosure, but also objective data in terms of the length and duration of the disclosure and the sentiment of the disclosure. In terms of expression, we are going to look at facial and vocal expressions, and we are also going to look at mood change and if indeed a social robot has the potential to be introduced in the context of psychosocial health intervention, how it affected on participants' low feelings of loneliness and isolations and stress, or the other way around, if notions of loneliness affected their interactions with the social robots. We just finished data collection, and I'm really, really excited to dive deep into analyzing all this data and have some better insights into human-robot interactions on a long-term and very intensive interactions. Thank you so much for listening. I had a pleasure. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask now or to get in touch with me on Twitter or send an email. Feel free. Thank you so much.